Complainants in trial 2 that were my clients, of course they're living through the justice of this complainant in trial 1, of course. This is about the same abuser.
Ingrid, I'm aware of the legal issues surrounding these questions about the swimming pool issues and the survivors in Ballarat that you've had long-term contact with. How do you think they will be if the result of the appeal means that Cardinal Pell is freed?
Just gutted, completely flawed, loss of all hope, hitting the bottle, hitting the drugs, losing jobs, losing family members, going off the deep end, having relationship breakdown with their current partner, with their ex. It just flares up the whole bloody thing. Problems with their children, with their relationships with their children, because they feel that society aren't listening and don't care. And that's what happens with cases like this. Because of its profile, it really does have such a huge ripple effect. It creates a tidal wave in communities throughout the Western Victorian belt, starting in Ballarat, ending, right down on the coast, where all the clergy abused, children and communities and families. They betrayed trust and tore everyone apart. When decisions like this get overturned, survivors can't live in that space. It's like this. It's like going through a roller coaster ride, and expecting them to be able to hang on through that it's like asking for the impossible. So that's why cases like this really matter, and that's why the police and the OPP and the DPP should have ensured that we had the best barrister today there. Should have been someone with arguments on the ready, should have been made the state proud. As a lawyer, I was watching and just cringing, wondering where I'd to hide my head, hanging in shame. So I sat there in the court for the survivors that never get their trial heard, the survivors that trial 2 knocked out, Mr. Monument sitting somewhere in Ballarat hearing about this today or watching it. It's just, we need to fix this urgently. We need to fix it. And I, as a member of the legal profession, am saying exactly how easy it is to fix. You just put someone as smart as counsel today, Mr. Walker, have someone there on the other side as smart as him. It makes sense.
Just a final question, where we take our hats off, our legal hat, and we just make a comment as a survivor. Did you find being in the courtroom, hearing this appeal was triggering for you? And what are some of the ways that you've come up with to deal with that?
That's a good question. Look, personally for me, with my case was dropped by the OPP. The OPP have prosecutorial discretion that's completely unfettered by any other body. You can't go to the Attorney General or the Premier of your state or the Prime Minister. Nobody is able to look at the decision that a DPP makes, whether they'll drop a case or proceed with the prosecution. That is absolute prosecutorial discretion that they own alone. So in my case, it was dropped, just like trial 2. Now, when I look today at what's happening with trial 1 and how close it is to falling over, I know what I've been through, and I can just only imagine complainant 1. So it is triggering. It absolutely is, because I feel like the complainant in trial 1 is that close to being in my shoes and the shoes of 99% of my clients. So yes, it's triggering. It makes me angry, especially when I see one of the solicitors there today, not at the bar table, but sitting there in the front row, was the OPP solicitor in my own case. When I hear that the police investigation was completely incompetent, it doesn't surprise me. And it makes me straight away think of my own case, the things they didn't do, the fact that they didn't want to bring witnesses and have them called where they feel that they could give, it's called a hostile witness, that they could give evidence that's sort of against me. But I think that's a matter for evidence. That's what you do. You come forward and you cross-examine those hostile witnesses. You bring them. The fact that they didn't, they're always running a million miles away from what we call exculpatory evidence. And I think that's what they raised today. The defence said, why didn't you call Father Egan and ask him these questions, And that's the problem, that they never want to get to the nitty-gritty of it. They just want to bring their witnesses that support. But in the face of that, they actually need to be looking at what it looks like they're hiding. And that's the whole problem. When they don't refute something that's put or said in evidence, it's open to the court to infer that that witness is telling the truth, or that there's something. So the fact that they run the cases that way is a real problem, and that's been illustrated today in the case. So yeah, very, very triggering. In terms of what I go and do when I go home, not much. I speak to my children, I try and switch off. But knowing again, when I wake up, the same thumping headache's still there, the same problems there. And while I'm a member of the legal fraternity, I can't just take that lawyer hat off and sit as a survivor in that space. I always feel energised that I need to cut people's heads off, especially when we've just had Law Week in May, and my legal brethren in my hometown of Ballarat spent the week telling everybody what a wonderful job judges and magistrates do. They have very difficult decisions to make, and they weigh up the evidence, and they don't really appreciate, this sort of cut their heads off mentality and criticisms of the judiciary. These are my legal brethren, these are my practicing solicitors in my town, actually sucking up the arse of the legal profession, instead of being socially responsible and saying the judiciary and the legal system's out of whack from what victims need, from what victims feel, how they live and breathe, and doing something about it so we make small steps in the right direction. And yeah, I'm completely pissed off. So yeah, no, I don't have any vices. I'm not going to hit the bottle, or I don't know, probably overeat, have a piece of chocolate cake. But yeah, look, no, taking the matter seriously, I literally cry on the inside and out. And I just want it to be a better place. And then I've got to wake up, with my husband going and doing an excellent job for people in Pell's shoes again tomorrow. And I look at it, and yeah, it's hard for me to reconcile personally. It just brings tears to my eyes.
Thanks, Ingrid.